We back. What's going on, people? Today we have a belter episode for you. We have Lisa Smith, the Global Chief Design Officer at Uncommon and the newest D&AD President. If you're in the design world and you don't know who Lisa Smith is, then stop everything you're doing right now and listen to this episode. Lisa is one of the most respected design leaders on the planet. So big up Lisa Smith and welcome to the What Does Your Mum Think podcast.
Very, very excited. Thank you. I'm got bright red right now with your glowing introduction. Hope I can live up to it.
I'm sure you will.
Yeah, super excited to be here.
Thank you for being here, Lisa. We appreciate your time. And you've had an amazing career. You've worked at Browns, the V&A, Marque, the New School, Moving Brands, Olins, Chobani, JKR, a little bit of overseeing at Canva, and now you're at Uncommon, to name a few. That is some career. So to kick things off, I'm just going to do a quick fire round to warm up the cockles, as my mum would say, and then get into a couple of questions. So first one being the most uncommon brand in the world right now.
The most uncommon brand? What, the one from Uncommon or just
either way, anything. You see what I'm doing there?
Yeah. I mean, right now, I have to say, yes, I've probably joined Uncommon and I'm drinking the Kool-Aid. I had lots of reasons why I joined for their awesome work, but the work that the team have just done on The Ordinary is absolutely, it's brilliant. It's the most surreal, cinematic, and if anyone doesn't know what The Ordinary is, it's a beauty brand that's dispelling the myths of all the crap and the expensive shit that everyone pretends or tells you or that you pay premium for other beauty brands. And it is, you've got to check it out, from the out of home to the posters to floor. I've seen them even on the streets here in New York, but the film, it's just brilliant. It's everywhere right now, but I think that team in London who did that work, it's killer.
Love it. The last thing that truly inspired you.
Oh, the last thing that truly inspired me. I mean, look, yes, you mentioned that I sit on boards of obviously the president of D&AD, which is incredible. I feel very inspired when I'm around all of the board of trustees that come from all over the world, and being able to mine and hear all their perspectives from different places. I find that really inspiring. I mean, yes, I love to go and see art and all of these other things, but being around people with other experiences. And I also sit on the design advisory board for Canva and Affinity, and I met with that team this week. And they were sharing the new, some new kind of things that are going to be happening for both of them. And yeah, that's with Debbie Millman, Jessica Hirsch, Eddie Opara. The list goes on, the talent that has come together, and we sit and we talk about product and what designers need and want, and to be able to give everybody access to design in the world. I feel very inspired when I'm around both of these sets of groups. I feel very privileged and very lucky to have seats on both of their boards. It's gives me a whole nother perspective into other parts of the world that you wouldn't see or hear about.
Yeah, I love it. Iron sharpens iron, right? A word that you overuse.
Awesome. Brilliant is when I'm being very British. Awesome is when I'm in America, which I've lived here for the last 18 years. And sometimes I'm like, why do you keep saying it? I can hear yourself. This isn't fucking awesome, but you're saying awesome. I think it's just, I use it a little bit too much. But,
nice. Yeah. A design cliche that you'd ban forever.
Oh, it's so interesting. Someone asked me and sent me to ask me my thoughts on modern heritage when you get briefed. I would ban those I want something modern but traditional, something contemporary but rooted in our past. Get over it. Well, the problem is that I have with those kind of briefings is so many times the brands don't have a rich heritage or legacy, or there's a reason why they need to evolve and change. And not enough brands are looking towards the future and how they should act and behave. And I think it's just such a cliche brief brand. I'm so over it. I want to be traditional but modern. Yeah,
I've heard it a few times. And the last one, what's one truth you think more leaders, design leaders, should I say, or any kind of leaders need to hear?
I think they should stop being so depressing. Like, honestly, I am so over people talking about AI, whether AI is going to ruin this industry. I'm so, all of like the very, we live in a crazy time. So obviously but all of these big conglomerate groups that are all condensing those things. And it's just, there's so much negativity out there. And I would just say, as leaders, stop perpetuating all of this negativity and get on, make and be creative and do what we're best at. Full stop.
It. Say no more. Great. We'll say a lot more, actually. We're going to elaborate on a few bits, but that's great. Amazing. Thank you. Right. So the way we pulled this together is in a kind of a project stage, right? So we've got a concept stage, a development stage, a refinement stage, and a production stage, all of Lisa Smith, right? Okay. So the first stage is exploring who Lisa Smith is. So I'm going to hit you with a big one first off, right? So when someone Googles you, Lisa, they see Global Chief Design Officer, D&AD President, big ones. When you look in the mirror, what do you see?
Yes, broski, what's good?
Lad, I'm just doing my big shop in China. Check out how crazy all this packaging is.
Yo, mad thing. I'm just doing a big shot too. Check out all this sick packaging.
Do you know what? There should be a design ceremony or something like that for all this sick packaging.
What, lad? Have you never heard of the Dieline Packaging Awards?
Ah?
Oh, lad, entries are now open for 2026. Don't sleep on it. Get the recognition you deserve for all you and your team's hard work.
Oh yeah, man, nice. Is it expensive to enter?
They switched up the pricing this year so more people can enter. Solo designers, agencies and students, prices vary.
Can you hit me up with a link?
Yeah, bro. Check out dielineawards.com/rates-deadlines.
Yeah, man. Sick. Peace.
A little girl from Essex. I mean, it sounds all amazing, and I've probably spent my career looking up to people who have had these roles in the past. But I am a graphic designer. I'm a curator of talent. I love what I do. I feel very inspired. I will always talk about myself as a commercial artist. I'm not, to be honest, painting at the weekend or crocheting, or I'm taking up ceramics, and I'm not writing a book, even though people keep asking me to write a book. I don't think of myself like that. I just think I've curated my career to keep on a path of learning and a journey, and I'm just this person that's found themselves in another big city, which I love. The vibe, the energy, it suits who I am. I find there's bigger opportunities here. I really love the sort of gnarly big brand navigate the politics. I love people, so I have a lot of time to spend how we navigate to get things through that are ambitious and stuff like that. But yeah, really, I'm from Wendon Zambo in Saffron Walden in Essex.
Come on, big up. I love it. So what did you like to do as a kid? What would you do as a kid in Essex?
My mum, when you come from the country, and of course, as soon as I sort of became a teenager, I will tell you I did everything and anything to get the fuck out of there. But as a kid, it was fun because we were very encouraged to do a lot more outdoor and sporty things. Like there's a story, I didn't meet one of my granddads. He drowned, so my dad was obsessed with us swimming, and all of us went kicking and screaming in swimming lessons, and then I'm swimming for the county. I loved running. I did cross country. I played field hockey for East of England. I loved sports. My mum, I had two brothers, so we were just like I think initially it was like a way for my mum to drop us at something at the weekends at the leisure centre, and she like be able to go and get her hair done or like get a little bit of time back for herself as a mum of 3 kids. But we would all go and roller skate, run, play, be outside, very much more very tomboyish, to be honest. And like because when you're from the countryside, like I always joke, everybody's like, why don't you ride a bicycle in New York? Why can't you get on one of those things? I'm like, because I never did my cycling proficiency, because we went on a bike and we would fall in a ditch. Do you know what I mean? Like we wouldn't really see a car for a long while, and we were a bit renegade. So I don't trust myself around the constraints of a big city and doing that. We were just a bit kind of messy. My granddad would take us on cycle rides everywhere. He lived in Leon-C, so we would go all along Canva Island in a trail, me and my brothers, and we would go. I love that you used the word cockles, because it made me think of the cockle sheds and going, and that's a big memory I have of one of my granddads, is like we would go and get mussels and cockles and all of that type of stuff. But yeah, we were very outdoorsy and outsidey. The irony is now I'm like a big city girl who actually doesn't like the odd hike is nice when you go to LA, but
I've recently found upstate, and I love going up there and just escaping it all for a weekend. You know what I mean? It's amazing.
Yeah.
You know. So what was your first introduction to design coming out of that then? Do you remember that?
Yeah, I mean, it was interesting. I did like doing bits of art. My mum says I keep listening to your podcast and you say you weren't arty at all, but I do remember one drawing and it got picked and it was in an exhibition. And I was like, but I didn't really get into that until much later on. I did choose to do art, and there was a graphic design class like 16, 17, 18. I shouldn't have stayed to do sixth form, because I was just too into the sports. I also found that I quite like going out, and I love dancing, and it was the beginning of rave culture back then. And so I definitely like to go out for very long nights and use my stamina in a very different way. But so I didn't love school, and I felt like, I'm going to go and do sports. I'll be a sports teacher. So I did just enough to scrape by to apply to get into university. And as it sort of came to do it, I was like, really, Lisa, you want to play hockey on a Saturday morning with a load of kids in the freezing cold British rain? I was like, I don't think that's what you want to do. And so I went back and was like looking at like the art and the CDT. We did a thing called craft design and technology. And I was like, I love those classes. I just didn't excel because I wasn't focusing at all and didn't really. And so someone said, well, look, if you like them, but you haven't really put any effort into them, well, if you want to go to college to do this, you're going to need to do an art foundation. I was like, well, I don't really want to go to college, if I'm truly honest, but the art foundation sounds amazing because it's got ceramics and photography and fine art and graphic design and printmaking and jewelry making. And I was like, well, look, maybe if I did a year of doing a course like that, I'd start to find what I like. So I definitely wasn't one of those kids that knew exactly what I wanted to do when I grew up type thing, which I do think we're forced to try and decide that way too young. If I look back, that's probably why I hated my A-levels so much and why I spread my bets and failed pretty much everything, because I wasn't really focusing on anything. But this art foundation, the college said, look, you don't really have a portfolio. Can you actually draw? You need to go away, read Ways of Seeing by John Berger, and go away and do a drawing. And I went away and I had a boyfriend that was into cars, so I drew a car engine, but I spent like maybe 6 weeks doing it. Every day I'd do a little bit, but I did like a photographic pencil drawing, all shaded, like massive, on A1 or something, of a car engine. And I rolled it up and took it to the college, and they're like, you can draw. I was like, yeah, probably not a good idea to tell them how long that actually took me to draw. But they were like, all right, come on to this art foundation, open minds, open heart, see what you get into. And it blew me away. I suddenly lost all interest in the sports stuff. I went from being a person that loved to go to raves and partying to going, no, actually, I want to focus on this year, and sort of and really immerse myself in it so much. Like the fine art was like painting with your elbows and your knees, and it was developing black and white photos. I was just like, I was so like addicted. And then it came to the last term and they're like, well, you need to pick one of them because then you have to go to college to go and do one of them. And you're like, oh, really? Like, I just want to do them all. There's not a course that goes on and you can do them. And it was funny because I was doing the graphic design was really back then was like collage and stuff like that. And the teacher was so cool. Her husband was a photographer director called David Stewart. And he did this project called Cabbages, which was this surreal film where everyone's heads pop up and they've like got cabbage leaves on their heads. It sounds bonkers, but it was very theatrical and very cool. And she was like, look, graphic design is one of those subjects where you kind of can do it all. Like if you like illustration and printmaking and textures, there's ways to bring that into your work. If you like typography, there's ways to bring it in. If you like photography and art direction, there's ways to bring it in. She said, I feel like if you want to do this, you should do graphic design. Because originally I'd also gone and told my mum, I want to do fine art. And my mum was like, I don't think you'll earn any money. And I was like, well, that's not really a problem. She said, well, it is for me because I would like it if you all leave home at some point. So I was like, and that's because I think my mum didn't do I was the first one to go to university in my family. And when you think back, I think she got a job at like 17 or 18. So she'd left home like 18, 19. And so she was a bit like, oh my God, you're going to do fine art and then you're going to move back in with me 3 years later? This is not an option. So when I said I was going to do graphic design, not that I could still tell you my mum does not know what I do today, but I've tried to explain many times.
That's my last question. Where you got, obviously you're very driven, Lisa, you know, where does that come from? Do you get that from your mother?
I think some of it was the failing at school, to be honest. I failed, so I had to prove myself and bring myself back. I mean, I failed pretty bad. I got a few GCSEs and I failed almost basic. I got like C, D and a U or so, D, U, E and a U.
Lisa, you sound like, honestly, my story is exactly the same. I was exactly the same, but sorry to cut off it, yeah.
Yeah, I know, it's cool. And it's like, and to be honest, when I got to university, I thought I was going to love it. And that first term I had actually a bit of a breakdown. I actually experienced panic attacks and had some sort of like, I suffered with mental health, I think, in that first year of university. And it was a really hard year for me. I dropped out in the first term and came home. They kept my space open. And I got, I think, the equivalent of like a glandular fever that had also brought on like, bringing up some like past family stuff that I think I suffered from. And I'm not afraid of talking about it. It was really hard and I didn't want to go back. And then one day my mum was like, look, we've tried therapy, we've tried homeopathic medicines. You want to do this for a living? We are going to make you go back to college. So my stepdad drove in my little like Citroen AX all the way to Bath from Essex. And my mum like almost trapped me in a car. And I was like, no, I don't want to go back. I don't. And she was like, we've got you your own room and your own bit of the halls of residence because I was sharing. And it was just like, and I got there and they literally gave me the doctor's number and was like, good luck. This is it. We're done. Like, and they were a bit harsh, but like I look back and it was, honestly, I thank my mum every day for that moment as much as it was harsh. What was amazing was the people that I lived on the same floor of in that second term. They were very like, one was quite hippie. She was just like, do deep breathing. Cause I wasn't sleeping. I had insomnia. Everything was just a bit out of control. And I went to see a doctor and she taught me breathing exercises, and it all, as you sleep, everything starts to come back to reality in a bit more way. And then I started to get stuck in and I made great friends that I'm still great friends with, a lot of people there today. But I think, it was another bit that I think is part of the drive, is when you kind of hit rock bottom and you've failed, you've hit mental rock bottom, the only way is up. And I wanted to be good at I've always wanted to be good at what I was doing. Now, there's bits where it's like, I look back now, it's like, I'm probably not the best on the computer. I'm not the best at the photography. I'm not the best at any one superpower. My thing is I understand the world that we're bringing and the vision for it, and I can curate teams and I can make it and scale it. I mean, I'd say that, but when I was a DD at Olins and I was doing some of the stuff, I was at the most shit hot bit of my career, where you're like, you could come up with the idea, you know how to make it, and you're starting to galvanize teams under, and you're starting to sell it in. There was a moment where it all came together. It's just the scale got bigger and bigger, and I had to get bigger and bigger teams, and you played a different role in how you do it. But I think it's always been, I've always wanted to just be really good at it, and I've always wanted to make really cool stuff. Like, I think Brown's working with John Ellery, and we can touch on any of that. He's helped set my ambition. Like, he was just like, he told me everything should be award winning. Now, I've told him that only the other week over a coffee one morning, and I was in London in Borough Market, and he was like, yeah, but I didn't mean actually enter awards. And I was like, I know you didn't. It was a metaphor for make awesome work that no one's ever seen before. Now, look, we live in a time where probably nothing has ever not really been done before, but it's how you remix it and reinterpret it and challenge the paradigms and help the clients cut through the noise and all of those things. That was all instilled from me from John. And then my second job at the V&A, Moira, who was the director of the V&A, taught me that all the disciplines could tie together. She was a designer that was running a complete regeneration of the V&A's building project with architects. She learned to read drawings. And I was like, I can work with 3D designers. I can look at architects' plans. I can do the graphic design. I love illustration and photography and all. Like, it was about bringing all of the discipline. It was really where the moment where it all started to come together.
Yeah, nice. Landing that first job at Brown's, how did that come about out of uni?
Oh yeah, that's another story, because it's just not easy, and I know it's not easy for anyone. Like, I graduated in 2000, which will probably tell you how old I am and also how long I've been working. 25 years. Oh my God. And the thing I think with that was, it was 2000, it was a recession in 2000. And so it was tough. Like, I left college and I wrote hundreds of letters. I still joke with quite a few people that I'm friends with that I wrote them letters and they never wrote back, whether they had their own agencies or worked for somewhere. And somehow I ended up doing some work experience at a annual report firm called Radley Elder. They still go today. Carl Radley still works there. You know, interestingly, I had a boyfriend who was a bricklayer, which is like just hilarious, because when you think it came from Essex, and he was my sweetheart for many years, and he knew Carl as well. So there was like, he ended up doing some work with him whilst I got work experience. It was just a kind of weird, mad thing. But he owned a big company. It was on Old Street back then, and that was when people did annual reports, and it was a huge business in itself. I stepped on the floor. I think it was probably like 50 men and like a couple of women. Most of the women were in the typesetting department or the account teams or the project management. And like, they would go for a beer at lunch. I'd have one pint and I'd be bright red and like, oh, I'm not going to be able to kookily work. I haven't actually eaten anything because I couldn't even afford my lunch or whatever. So the whole thing was just like a little bit me and all these guys. It didn't really bother me because, as I said, I got 2 brothers, but I felt like I've always had that around me. But it was, but I was so lucky there that there was a guy called Rob Rich, who I'm still friends with today as well, who was took time to look at my portfolio. I ended up doing things like, they get me to do the Christmas card for Klein Wharton Benson, which is like a big bank, and I'd make them the 3 kings. I mean, it was like really.
Listen, love a Christmas card brief. That's the hardest brief in the studio yearly.
Yeah, they gave me all the Christmas card brief. And so then I think with that, what happened was he looked at my book and he could see like, oh my God, I can see your obsession with like artists like Martin Parr in your photography and your macro. I can see your more editorial style. Like, no one had really taken time to look. Turned out his mum was my primary school art teacher.
Madness.
And I'm not kidding you, when I became president of D&AD, he wrote me a beautiful note. Actually, I do owe him a reply, so if he listens to this, which does mean a lot, and I do need to reply to him, because he was just like, his mum's passed away, and he said she would be so proud of you, where you've come to him. But he took the time, and he pointed out the agencies that he thought I would be a good fit, and I hadn't really come across Browns because they'd only be going really for a year, and they were 3 ex-annual report designers from Addison that had set up their own design studio to do a lot more like interesting publishing with artists, photographers, but still to do a lot of commercial work. And somehow I wrote to them. I wrote that this guy recommended me, which didn't make that any difference. And John, one of the founders, John Ellery, who's the main founder of Browns, invited me to come and see him. He told me there was rivers running through my type. I had to carry that massive portfolio back over Tower Bridge because they were in Shad Thames, and I was like crying, going, I'm never going to get a job, and it's got rivers running through my type. And my mother was like, what the hell are you talking about? And anyway, it gave me, by the time I got to the train station, they called me back to meet the other 2 partners the next day, because there was 3 partners back then. And yeah, they gave me my first sort of I count that really as my proper first work experience. It was like, I think 4 months, it extended to 5. And then after 6, they had hired a designer, Jamie, who's now at Apple. They're all, a lot of people that work there now, all the top dogs at Apple, actually. It's really interesting. And Jamie had come from C, and they were like having welcome, we've hired a senior designer, Jamie Roberts, and it's Lisa's last week. And we have to say goodbye. And so I was like gutted. I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do next. But they wrapped up a present in brown paper, and I unwrapped it, and it was my business cards. And then I was like, right.
Nice. Oh, I love it.
But really what I would always say with that was interesting too, because really I couldn't use a computer. We didn't have, like, I was that last year where the Macs were really at a rise, but you would have to come from a very wealthy family to own a computer. It was just before they were just starting to get those colored iMacs, which made everything a bit more affordable. But we'd share a lot of the computers at college, and really all I did was I did more time in the photography studio and then just put a bit of Helvetica in the corner. I didn't know grids and type and stuff as well as you do. And honestly, Scott Miller and John, but really Scott, every day teach me shortcuts on the computer. He'd draw out the grid, like I was doing a layout for Marks and Spencer's brochure, and where the X height should meet the picture height, not the cap height, all the craft. And I have that notebook still with all my shortcuts, all the drawings of grids and type and stuff like that. I learned everything on the job, and this is where I get a bit angry, is like people just don't have the time to teach, and vice versa. A lot of kids think they know it all, which they are much more proficient, obviously, in the programs than we were back then. But it's just, it's coming in. And my mum told me, make yourself indispensable. I did make an inordinate amount of cups of tea. Luckily, no one gets asked to do that. But we had but what I loved, I share this sometimes. Browns had like a Pantone chart of like the shades of the browns for the cups of tea, and people had their name underneath each one, which one was like theirs. And sometimes you'd have to make so many, like I'd make 8, and I'd come out and I'd put John's down, and it'd be like, Smithers, did you run out of water?
Smithers.
Did you run out of water? And I was like, because we call him Ella's, because he would only get half a cup of tea, because I'd have to boil the kettle so many times for 8 cups of tea. Anyway, those are all those things that you like, I have made me, honestly. Like, I think coming full circle to Uncommon, whilst we don't ask anyone to do anything like that, everyone is very hands-on, and it is very not hierarchical at all. I'm back in the programs more than I've ever been.
Oh, nice. Love that.
Which actually I love too. Yeah. Like, I don't want to fade out having to like stand over people and tell them move this, move that. This is what I think. I mean, what I love is when people bring me work and it blows me away and I don't have to do very much at all. But I love to like share visions and swipe and reference and, oh, have you thought about tinkering it in this way, or be able to mark it up and say, like, did you know that the craft, the way you should execute this? So it's just like, it's cool to be back in these like more collaborative tools now. You know, it's brilliant.
Yeah, sick. Right, nice. That's amazing, Lisa. Love it. Right, so moving into the development stage, I'm at a point in my career now where like I'm like the seasoned senior. What you mentioned before about like that DD level where I feel like I'm coming into my prime, Lisa, and I'm trying to understand how to be the best leader I can be. You know, and I love being inspired, but I also love inspiring. As you know, it goes top down, and it's both ways, right? So I want to focus these next few areas on your leadership and how you've got there. So, like, who have your mentors been? But more specifically, what was the mentors that really inspired you to lead the way you do today?
Yeah, I mean, it's a really good question because I think, you know, yes, John inspired me maybe around my taste and the sort of fight and the tenacity to do amazing stuff. I think people like Scott Miller had the time to teach me, which, you know, just in bite-sized amounts that didn't wreck his day or wreck him getting on with what he needed to. Both of them taught me that you can fail. And I don't see much like room these days and ages for that. Like I definitely messed some jobs up, like had to redo plates when I was doing books and stuff like that. Like just no one lets anyone fail anymore. I mean, the clients are very unforgiving too. So I get it. It all perpetuates itself. So it's not a, you know, teaching environments are not as they were. So I've always like, I think Scott and Maura and John, and in more recent years, like I am lucky. I've got to work with some incredible bosses. So it happens that every single one has been a man apart from Maura when I was at the V&A. And they've all, the other thing that I think Tosh at JKR and Niels is letting me be me, letting me find my voice, but like they've hired me to be me. And it's easy when you step in, you're like, fuck, everyone does it like this. I need to like do it their way. And I fall trap of that every time I've ever changed jobs. And then I realize, no, they've hired me to be me. And there's a minute where I'm like, okay, now I know how to do it your way. But I also like, this is
great. So what's Lisa's process then? So like what's the process that you seem to forget when you move jobs, but then remember yourself that that's the way?
Oh, I think it's just because everyone's slightly different. Like, I mean, in some ways, like what I think was really interesting about working with Tosh, ironically, he came, well, not ironically, I mean, he came from more of a journalism background. So he was very strong at storytelling, very direct, very single-minded, very cut through, often one direction. I am a stone, never unturned, generative, messy, but then I go generative and then I go reductive and then I go generative and then I go reductive and I love the idea of making multiple directions and clients liking different bits of each and then pulling them together into one. I think that helps me make the camel, or other people have got funny names for that. I believe that makes the more unique thing than if we'd done direction 1, direction 2, or direction 3. The camel makes it very special. It makes it much more true to that brand. It's the best bits of each one, and I want to allow room for that process and to be able to do that. But you have to have really good trust with your client to be able to do that. So my other piece of the process is building strong relationships with my clients, so much so that they can call me, can WhatsApp me, we can disagree. The problem that I see is a huge problem, no matter what category or industry right now, is everyone is just trying to please clients. I think everyone is so scared of holding on to the work, and the clients want it so fast and so quick, so there's no room for mistakes, which they've got to learn. They're going to get better stuff if like they allow for a healthy creative process. So I hope some clients will listen to this. But I just think building the relationship, like there's many times I've worked with Rafa. I was really lucky to work with Rafa on Burger King, and we've become great friends from that process. He was the head of design at Burger King at the time, and I was obviously at JKR. Then he went on to work at Coca-Cola. I've worked on many Coca-Cola jobs, ones that I'm leading, ones that other teams are leading, but he will call me if he doesn't feel like it's going in the right way, no matter who was doing it. And we're not afraid to talk about it, and he's not afraid to give me the room and the space to get it back on track. Like it's okay for it to like go a little bit wrong.
Yeah. What do you have?
I mean, it'd be lovely if it wasn't every time on every job. That's exhausting. But the trust, and yeah, I've definitely come out. I don't agree with that. He's like, I don't agree with that, and we've kind of. I go away. We think like the call gets to a point where it's like we're not going to shout at each other or anything like that. We're not like that type of people. But we'll step away, and one of us will crack it. Like, I understand what you're saying. You get what I'm saying. Somehow we've got to meet in the middle or find a new path forward, and it is room to do that. There's not many. I just see so many people trying to client please right now. Yeah, client. Like they're completely right. The whole point is the client's hired an outside perspective, and then we're just really doing it. I don't understand that. Like we should be collaborating. I mean, that's the truth. It's not one against the other. I have a lot of time, again, for in-house because I've worked in-house twice in my career. And I don't believe a lot of agencies or creatives have any empathy or understanding for the politics that you might deal with in-house.
What do you feel clients are asking for now that they wasn't 5 years ago? But regardless of that, what should they be asking for?
Yeah, it's interesting. It's the whole running theme, let's be honest, has always been like faster, quicker, cheaper. But one of the things that even maybe that was more back at Wolf, I started to see people wanting it faster. And we used to say, you can't have all three. If you're going to do it faster, it's likely it's going to cost more money because I might need more people to be able to superpower to get it done at that record speed. Because I know I can do a branding job with 2 SDs and a DD or a CD and but it will, to do 3 or 4 directions, it would take, to get down to one direction, ready to guideline, it's going to take 12 to 16 weeks. Like, it's just a fact of the matter. But I've worked on a lot of startup stuff now where they want to do stuff more instinctual in 4 weeks, and it's like, you do a strat on a page in almost 1 or 2 days, but it's not got all the grounding and backing if you're doing a much more robust, thorough process. But it's interesting. I love the testing fast things to market, and I love I don't think you can afford to do that with a big, robust brand. I think, I think the briefings from clients are getting better. I think a lot of like marketeers now are much more trained in writing briefs and doing it. But again, they're only seeing it from one perspective. I often find when you read the brief and you get to what the crux of what the problem is, it's not always what the problem that they think it is. Yeah. So I think I appreciate them coming with what they think the problem is, because you have to start somewhere. And so I think what they should be asking for is a moment for us to interrogate that brief and interrogate them around the brief, and also give us access to more people within their organization or their customers and things like that. Because again, I find when they do it in a silo, we have a huge problem selling the work through. So the access and getting permission from bigger leaders is super important. What they're not asking for is like things like what we were talking about, a range, like, oh, okay, they're asking to have the most senior, fastest, quickest thinkers to solve their problem and who can hit the ground running. What they should be asking for is a healthy team from all age perspectives, all different backgrounds, to tackle their brief in an interesting way, so that we are like training and teaching and learning some people on the job. I think that's a real shame that it's like, oh no, we only want access to the most senior leaders.
Yeah. I think that kind of like cultural context that can come from the team too, from different diverse age ranges and even diverse backgrounds, you know, I mean, it's so important. And again, it brings so much more kind of light to the work, right?
I think you have to read the room with all of it as well. Like I've learned that, like, you know, sometimes going to a client meeting where there's only 2 of them and you bring 12 people because everybody
it's a bit much.
It's a bit much. So you have to decide when is it that the younger ones get the access. I mean, definitely they should be presenting internally to all the senior creatives, practicing that, and then vice versa. It's just more like, reading the room. But it's great when there's a much richer, wonderful team.
I agree. Misfits. Beautiful misfits. Do you have a moment on the top of your mind that you took like a creative risk from your leadership direction, where everyone else in the studio has been like, no, Lisa, we should do it another way, and you're like, fuck down, we're doing it this way because I believe in this vision, everyone get on board, and it paid off? And it was like, right, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I think what was interesting, even back at Brown's, the way John worked was he was quite a visionary and he had an immaculate taste, but we were all a lot of designers, we were his hands, if you know what I mean. It was a bit more like an apprentice when I first started there. And then as you grew from apprentice to a designer to a senior designer, and you have a point of view and a vision yourself, I would always present to him and what he was kind of, I knew him so well by that point. It was intuitive, present him what he would expect or want to see, and then what I thought, and he'd always be like, okay, be it on your head. But he let me do it my way, and that was amazing. So that gave me the confidence, to be honest. It was a bit of a I look back now, he would have clearly said absolutely not, do the other one if he didn't like what I'd shown him. Like, so that taught me that. But I think that happens, Lily, on every job, to be honest. And also happens when you've got financial constraints and timing constraints. And I think somebody once told me of another story about Michael Wolff at Wolff Olins, legend that he is, that he was working on something and he didn't feel the team had cracked it, and they were meant to present it in, I don't know, a client that was in France or Paris, and he got on the train the next day to go to France and Paris to tell them that he was going to come back in 2 weeks' time to present it, and that he wasn't presenting anything that day. But he had the guts to do that. I've always said, like, I will call it. If it is not, if we don't think the work's good enough, we will call it and we will ask for more time. I very rarely have played that card, but I will do it if we're not ready. But I hope we can crack it. That's all. It's just like, it's more, especially when now you're going so fast. It's just, everything does feel more expedited. Everything, the agility, which is the new norm. Like, FYI, you have to just kind of figure it out.
Great. Refinement stage, keeping things moving. Refining the state of design today. Beyond, I mean, we touched up on a few bits, I guess, but like, being really honest, do you feel like the design world, ad world, whatever it may be, still play things a little bit too safe?
Yes. I guess.
Yeah.
This is why I've moved to Uncommon, perhaps.
To break some stuff. I love it.
I think, look, there's moments at everywhere I've worked where we were breaking things. Like, Wolff Olins politely should have never walked away from game-changing brands. That was a brilliant ethos. People knew that you would come to Wolff Olins to break things. That's why they did the 2012 Olympics. It's why we did USA Today. It's why like the Met looks the way the Met did, and AOL and New Museum and all the wonderful things that many of the other creatives led there. I didn't work on all of those. It was a real era that we had back then. And I think I've been chasing it ever since. And I think, you know, look, we're in times have also changed. So like, well, JKR, the sort of narrative of be distinctive everywhere has never been so important when brands are making so much content, like, and you've got so many different agencies, like design agencies, ad agencies, PR agencies, experiential agencies, all working on your brand. I can think of some particular big beer brands, for example. They've got all these different siloed agencies that they try to bring together to kind of work off the same platform, but everyone's got their own little like take and perspective. And it can get really broken when stuff comes out there, like that looks slightly different to that looks slightly different to that. I think when I was at Chobani, getting to do the full world of the brand, no matter whether it was the comms, whether it was the store, whether it was the digital, whether it was that, was like the first time I was like, whoa. I mean, I was doing that. I did that on USA Today as well. And even the way I made the guidelines was so good on the Met. I was so happy with them. I co-created them towards the end with their in-house creative leader, Emil, back then. And they were like the way that team took it and applied it across every piece of the experience, from publishing to the visitor experience to the digital experience. It is really like cool. It is great that there's a thread that connects it all together. And still so many people are not trusting a partner to kind of connect all that together. They're still working in these like siloed expertise things. But what I really think is like, I found that a lot of designers and people are like, well, cool, look, I worked on this brand identity. Isn't it distinctive? And you're like, who are you to tell me that is distinctive? The world needs to tell us if that is distinctive. Just because you picked a different color from the rest of the category or a slightly different style of typeface, if it looks like the same colors and the style of typeface that's happening in trends in other categories, it's not really that distinctive. Like, it's distinctive is also about being true to who you are. So like a little bit of like Burger King was inspired by the past, but it was only the symbol that came from the past, and we modernized that. Everything else was entirely net new, but it felt more Burger King than Burger King had ever done before, because the colors were inspired by the food and the flame grilling and the juicy, delicious typeface and all of that type of stuff. But I think, you know, everyone is following trends and tropes, and again, being so quick trying to get brands to market so fast, they're just falling symptom of Pinterest and arena boards and all of that jazz, and not really going, what's true to that brand and how do you bring it to life? And then they're all just trying to tell me it's distinctive. I'm just like, I don't buy it. Like, I just don't buy it. Yeah, it's really, really, yeah, we're in a really interesting time right now where, yeah, we called it blanding before, where everything was like sea of sandsness, kind of caused by the rise of digital and UI design. And now we're at a different kind of stage of blanding. I think we're just in the sea of sameness, where like everything can look like Brat Summer, which I thought was genius when that came out, because that was distinctive. Now everybody else is like tries to have like that same kind of aesthetic or something like that, and then immediately those brands aren't really true to being who they are. So I look for disruptive minds. I think it's the thinking as much as the making, but it certainly is the making too. And like we talk a lot about Uncommon, about finding the friction in culture and the idea that's going to drive fame. Now, a brand identity system might not drive fame. It might be how we launch it into the world that does that in a really thing. But you can sometimes do it within it. Look what's happened with London Museum and the pigeon, with the grit and the glimmer of the pigeon shit, which is so true to London. I love it. But it's like, so sometimes it's in the identity can do it. Sometimes it's in the way it launches, or sometimes it's in the way it behaves, but you've got to like try and how is this brand going to break through? Otherwise it's just going to die.
In the most simple way you can say it, what makes good design?
I mean, it's a combination of things. Good design is a good idea, but it is incredible craft. And it's unexpected and you haven't seen it before. And I'm like saying those three things out loud. They are the three criteria when we judge D&AD awards. Like, I think good design, there has to be a level of it is fit for purpose. Like, there was a lot of debate at D&AD Awards about the Walmart rebrand, which obviously I'm very much part of and led it, as well as like what Koto did for Amazon. And they didn't get acknowledged in awards like I think they should have done. I'm not trying to say that because I worked on it. It's totally fine. You can call me an ass, whatever. But it's more that they were so fit for purpose in terms of like the channels, the places, and the reimagination of them. You shouldn't get awarded for the scale or how hard, even though those two brands probably were the hardest things and the biggest scale that anyone would ever fathom ever again. But you're not going to be able to do something like Paris Olympics that's quirky for a set moment in time. It has to be that, like, so can't you still do exceptional design for something that has to last for the next 20 years and work in millions of different channels? I think we're a bit naive if we think everything has to be the pigeon. But Walmart could show up with actions that disrupt in culture in really interesting ways and bring the brand to life in really interesting ways that make it part of the conversation. I mean, I think they loved the way it launched because everyone took the piss. Did we just make it bolder? But everything.
But that's what I loved. You even flipped that. You used that to your advantage. I was doing the research for this today. I was watching the thing where you take all the TikTok comments and and then just flip it completely. And I said, and when you watch that video, when you understand it from that design point of view, and you look at the depth that's gone into something that's scaled up and used by billions of people, that's when you understand, like, you know, holistically, that's good design, right?
It's very, 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 it's really, it had a great idea that you can stand behind for always and always. And it was rooted in their past, but it was really fit for the future. Yeah, everything was reimagined with a dotted line to everything from their heritage, but completely new. I think there was a lot that was missed on Walmart, but it's working.
I even love how you rationalise the bento boxes from the history of how they use them round corners and that. Everyone's using bento, but even this one.
Because that was brilliant because they made all those circulars, so it's just like it came from their circular. So look, I mean, it is, what a mammoth. I can only applaud David, who leads that design team. It is such a mammoth undertaking. It was 2 years of my life too. Those are big ones. And then I was ready for a little bit more like agile speed. Let's do some things that are a bit more faster and quicker and stuff. You know, that's the ebbs and flows that a designer like me feeds off. I want a big gnarly one, and I want a fast, quick one, and I want a cultural one, and I'm not afraid to work on a bank or a law firm or anything like that. Like, it's all, you know, I want.
It's so inspiring. It's so inspiring. Honestly, you light me up inside, Lisa. I love the way you talk about it. I love the passion that comes through, and I'm trying to be like you. Do you know what I'm saying?
Do it. I mean, and as you said, like, I don't think my narrative is any different than when I started designing 25 years ago. I've learned a lot. I've seen a lot. I still want to, I don't, this is the other thing that gets me with a lot of people. I have not finished learning.
I love it.
I put myself into situations that I have no effing clue how I'm going to solve it, or what people are going to need to bring around me to help solve it. I thrive in that. Other people do not thrive in ambiguity, and I have seen that.
Me and you both, I think pressure's a privilege. I'm best when I'm in the middle of an ocean. I can't see the beach or whatever, and I've got kettlebells on my feet.
And sometimes, and that's where you have great bosses. Like, this is why I wanted to be near Niels. I knew I wasn't going to get to work with him every day, but when I can't see the beach, I call Niels up. Like, and go, I got all of this. Like, what is resonating with you? Can we push it further? Like, I love that.
Amazing, Lisa. And then the last stage, production, your purpose and legacy. See what, you know what I'm saying? It worked.
It's really cool. I love your little framework.
So you've reached the top of your field and you're still going. So I say that with, you know, with as much respect as I can. But what, I know you touched on it again, but like what keeps you keep turning up with that drive every day? What keeps you hungry?
Because I just want to continue to learn, and I want to be as relevant as I was. I want to still be part of it, I guess, which is like, I don't want to age out of this, which I do think a lot about those things like now. I have a lot of friends who are all reaching kind of the, you know, mid-century mark, and you're just like, you worry about the latter half of your career. I think a lot of people worry about entering and how to get the job. Our industry talks all about that. It doesn't talk about all the people that are losing their jobs in their latter quarter of their career, and how they, you know, and there's a lot that aren't working right now, and because of changes in our industry and stuff like that, and the relevance. And so I attach myself to every age because I want to know what the cool music is the kids are listening to. What are they going to see at the weekends? They want to know what I'm going to see at the weekend. It really is. I thrive on trying to make sure I still feel relevant to me. I don't necessarily mean relevant to everyone else. I don't think of myself at the top of my game. I miss like, if you think of like some of these really successful people, they won Young Guns, or they 20 under 20, 30 under 30, 40 under 40. I've never got one of those things. I mean, yes, I have. Look, I've got accolades and stuff like that too, but I'm just saying I almost missed it. I was like a coming of age person. It's like, the 40 under 40, well, I'm now 41, and now I would have been deemed the right person to have got that. But it's just like, I think I was a bit of a late comer, and just kind of, again, just learn on the job. I stayed doing that DD role for as many years as I could do, because it meant that I was like making the most, and that I loved making. I didn't want to go into a senior creative leadership role where I wouldn't be part of the work. And I have found moments in my last job in particular, which, you know, I will talk frankly, like, Tosh helped me course correct, because I thought I was going to have to leave there a lot earlier, because I was in a management role running a team, and I love people, but I was doing more time managing the people and their growth and all of those things, which are all super important things, than I was leading the clients. Because I don't believe being, actually, Sheps, as you talked about where you are in your career, directing isn't about directing others. It's about directing the work. And it so happens that when you direct and lead a project as a design director, you will have other people that need to be directed. But it's not about growing to be a director to direct others. I don't give a fuck about that. You do teach on the job, but you are directing the vision for the project. And it happens that you will need more people to do that. So therefore, you're directing the vision on the project, you're directing the client, and you're directing the team.
Heard. Love it. So good, Lisa. It's so good. Honestly.
I mean, these are all sound bites that I've probably picked up from so many different people along the way.
It's good. It's good.
I've stolen with pride, maybe.
As we come to an end, I've got a couple. Are you all right for a minute? Yeah, you don't need.
I've got a hard stop at past.
Hard stop, right? I'm going to finish. You've touched upon it already. Final question: what does your mum think?
She doesn't know what I do. I love my mum, but bless her, just still no real clue. She always says, she was on a D&AD. You can look this up, but it's incredibly embarrassing, so I can't believe I'm telling you it. She was on a D&AD film that a bunch of mums were on. If you look up mums D&AD film, and they're like reviewing the yellow pencil, and she's like looking at it and goes, "You need to have a very modern home to have one of these." So she was on it, bless her, with her doily, colourful pink wallpaper. Like, we couldn't be so different in taste whatsoever.
She sounds perfect for this podcast.
Oh yeah, she's very really and truly, if I think about it, you know, like how you define creatives. My mum is very creative, just in not a traditional way that we all define creative. But I know she is very proud of me. But yes, she doesn't really know what I do. She always says, "I think you've grown and had the level of success," which this a bit will crack you up, and I can't believe I'm now going to say out loud. I was like, oh no, maybe I shouldn't say this. She always said you're a pretty manipulative child. So it's which is nothing to do now with manipulation. It's just more that I believe that is more about the powers of persuasion, and a lot of our job is doing the work, making the work, and selling the work. And it doesn't have to be like a hard sell. It has to be bring others along the way, hear people when they don't like it. Doesn't mean you have to do all of the feedback, all of those things. But I think that little girl in me that got my brothers kind of working for me, and my mum probably like making things revolve around me, probably has come through in little places into my latter career.
Amazing, Lisa. I think that's a great way to end this, and I can't thank you enough for your time. I am literally beaming inside, and I hope the listeners are too.
Yeah, thank you.
I appreciate you. Thank you, Lisa.